It might be on.
I'm sorry, Wilma, I missed what you said.
Thinking Christina might come on.
Oh,
She
that's lovely.
comes on late sometimes.
Yes. Um, Hi, I'm Elizabeth Hanson, and it is Wednesday evening. It is time for Keto Confab. We are a group of people trying to support each other in the keto lifestyle. And we begin right around 7 o'clock every Wednesday evening. And we usually we're starting to begin our meeting with going around the group and asking what your win of the week is, what you would do differently, and what you're thankful for. Um, my win of the week is that I actually went to the Dairy Queen this week with my daughter and got her French fries and a blizzard. And I got the small dilly bar that's dairy free, which is only 10 carbs, and I don't react to, rather than getting a blizzard. Because a lot of times when she's getting a blizzard, I feel that pressure to get a blizzard, but I didn't. Yay. Um, and also, twice this week, I've been able to get into bed before midnight. So those are my wins of the week. Now, what would I like to do differently? Ugh, still the sleep thing, and working on the emotions that push me towards food choices that I don't want. But I am getting better with that. And what am I thankful for? I'm thankful for my house. Some people don't have a home. Years ago, we lived in 750 square feet with three kids, three cats, and Scott and I, and that was where we lived. And now I have a house with a home office and everything. So I'm really thankful for it. So, Scott, are you there? Would you like to do
Yeah, I'm here.
your
Yeah.
um,
Well, I think my win this week was eating less sugar, eating fewer carbs. My uh, what I would do differently. I would like to sleep more. I have no problem getting to sleep, but I seem to wake up too early, and but I'm thankful for uh, the the keto diet and for the group that we have, for support and looking at new ideas and things. And yeah, I'm thankful for our house as well. Yeah, especially considering the way things are going with housing these days, and the economy in general. Yeah.
Wilma, do you want to join in with us?
The wins this week was I got back into keto. I got my chemistry working again. Another win was we were gone for 5 days and I lost half a pound. I did not gain during those 5 days. And another win was I was watching everybody eat their ice cream, their Cimaros, their cookies, their kettle corn. And I wasn't tempted at all because I was sitting there eating my egg bites, my bacon, my hamburger, and my roast beef and butter.
Mhm. Very
What would I do
good.
differently? I don't know. I think I pretty much got things pretty much on handle this week. And being gone, I'm thankful that I found keto. I'm thankful I found Dr. Boz and regained my health, and I didn't go down the path that a lot of people I saw walking around that were in strollers, in walkers, on scooters, limping and stuff. I've gotten over that. I've regained my health, so I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it is something to really be very thankful and very grateful. And wow, my hat goes off to you, Wilma. The social pressure about carbs. I mean, sugar and sweets, and I mean ice cream. But I made it, and it wasn't hard, and I didn't rebound. That day I went to Dairy Queen. A lot of times, if I fight off one craving, you know, like I'm going to stop at the Dairy Queen and get something, then and I fight that off, then later in the evening, I have to eat something, you know, because I used up all my willpower, but that didn't happen. So that's a real win for me, big win. And yeah, we have to be grateful for the improvements in our health because, you know, as you know, my health has improved a great deal doing keto. So I'm thankful for keto, and I'm thankful to get on this, even though sometimes I get a little off track, but I always come back to it. And so that's great. So in these meetings, we have been working on reading the myths that are at the beginning of this book, Stay Off My Operating Table by Dr. Paul Ovadia. And we are on myth number 3 this week. So I'm going to read this one. And for people who have been doing keto for a long time, this myth is no big surprise to us. Myth number 3 is the food pyramid is based on good science. Most people who learn that the food pyramid is killing us ask something like, but how can that be? Isn't the food pyramid scientifically sound? The government uses the best studies to design it for us, didn't they? As you'd hoped, the food pyramid is studied and revised every 5 years by a committee. The members of the committee are mostly scientists, but they have deep ties to the food industry. Researchers and clinicians get to raise their concerns, but the committee ultimately decides how to handle them. At the risk of sounding cynical, I believe that many studies that would hurt committee members' stock portfolios get torpedoed. Science is applied selectively at best to the food pyramid. For more information on this ugly process, check out Nina Teicholz's book as she delves into the medical and nutritional nightmare hidden behind the food pyramid guidelines, which brings us to our next myth. Now, this Nina Teicholz, I've actually watched a couple of video talks that she's done. It is just astounding. Now, I watched these early in my keto journey, and what I'll do is I will find them and put them linked with this video. So if you're interested in watching them, and I'll also find your book. I forget the name of it. I've known it before, but I forget the name of it. But it is quite just, to me, it was like, oh my goodness, does anyone in our government ever do the right thing is my question. Now, this week, when I was thinking of this week's topic or what we were going to work on, I found 2 videos that were very interesting and informative this week. And they are for people who are new to keto. They can be supportive to people who are doing keto, but, you know, fluctuating and everything. And I just want to show them a little bit. So I'm going to use my other computer, so this one doesn't break up a lot, but I'm going to use my other computer and share the screen for this one. So the first video here is the best treatment for all autoimmune diseases. This is Dr. Dr. Eric Berg, and he talks about autoimmune diseases. And there are lots of them. I mean, there are about 50 autoimmune diseases that I could list off the top of my head. And every day they're adding new autoimmune diseases. And to most medical science, they're saying that We don't know why these happen. Just for whatever reason, the body turns on itself. And most of the times the treatment is nothing, or steroids, or some sort of other medication that they've developed for this. And there's not much that can be done for it. But the interesting thing is he goes through here at the beginning of his talk. Not at the beginning. I'm not going to run the audio because that didn't work very well when we were doing it. He runs through 9 ways that the thing that he's going to teach people about will help treat all autoimmune disorders. And there's basically no side effects. Everyone can afford it. It reverses a lot of the symptoms of whatever your autoimmune disorder is. It's scientifically sound. It reduces inflation, et cetera, et cetera. And the interesting thing is I really thought he was going to say the keto diet. But that isn't what he said, but it still relates to the keto diet, because when he gets to this part, what he's talking about is the benefits of fasting. Now, in this group, we've discussed fasting, and a lot of us, well, a number of us fast. You know, Patricia was fasting, Tammy's done some. I know Wilma is like queen of the fasting. I am still doing OMAD, or usually I get to 22 hours and then eat within 2. Sometimes I'm 20 and 4. That's what I'm doing right now. It seems that if I go too long without protein, my heart starts to race. And so that's an issue, but I'm thinking of doing some protein powder or some bone broth to try and do a bone broth fast. Or I could try what Dr. Boz is doing right now with her group, a sardine fast. But I haven't decided on that. But anyway, this is an interesting video. I'll put a link to it in our group meeting information. The other video I found this week is this one by Dr. Berg, and this one is about the carnivore diet mistakes. Now, even if you are a vegetarian, I know you're not a carnivore. I mean, not all of us are carnivores. Melody especially is a vegetarian. There are points about eating keto that are reiterated in this discussion about the carnivore diet and how to do it right, and some mistakes that people make on the carnivore diet. So I think it's definitely worth a watch. I've actually watched it twice this week, and because I try and stick more carnivore because I do better. So many vegetables and carbs cause swelling or whatever with me, and I have fewer cravings if I stay away from carbs and stick to the proteins. And so anyway, this is another one, and I will put the linking items there. Just for interest's sake, I also went online and I found an article about autoimmune diseases, and I'll link this one too. Look at all the things autoimmune diseases affect. I mean, just the heart, the brain, nerves, muscle, skin, eyes, joints, lungs, kidneys, glands, digestive, just everything. And here's a list of some of the autoimmune disorders that are listed. There are more. This is not a definitive list. But anyway, I'll share that in the information in this meeting. Anyway, then the other thing is I was listening to another podcast, and I've lost track of it, but I'm hunting it down this week. And the person on the podcast said that if you don't want to get an autoimmune disorder, or if you don't want your children to get an autoimmune disorder, because they are so common, autoimmune disorders take about 20 years to fully be recognized. So, which means if you have a 10-year-old and they may not have any symptoms, but if you allow their bodies to build up inflammation, they can start developing autoimmune disorders in another 10 years. So by the time they're 20, 21, 25, whatever, they can start having autoimmune disorder problems. And especially depending on your diet. I mean, if their diet has been very carb heavy or very sugar heavy, they are going to be more likely to have an autoimmune disorder. And it takes about 20 years for an autoimmune disorder to develop. The other concept that listening to Dr. Berg and Dr. Berry and this other person that I can't find the thing, but I will, I learned this week is the concept that our bodies are like a city, small town, big city, whatever you want. And our immune systems are like the fire department and the police department of the city. And when we are constantly eating carbs and sugars, we are exhausting the police department and the fire department to put out the fires that happen all over. They happen at the Brain Hall and over on Stomach Street and Digestive Boulevard. Just all sorts of things are happening. Fires, that the firemen and the police, there's a robbery at the Hart Shopping Center. And, by putting these inflammatory foods in us, we are exhausting our immune system and allowing for cancer to move into the neighborhood, and other chronic illnesses, and also, the autoimmune diseases come and, get a house in our body city. And so it was a very interesting analogy, and I thought I'd share it tonight. So Wilma, any thoughts? Scott, any thoughts, any comments, anything you've watched this week?
No, I haven't watched anything new, but that's interesting about the autoimmune diseases on the 20 years. I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, that's why I've got to find that video I was watching. I need to find it so that you can hear her. I forget what kind of researcher she is, but she works in autoimmune diseases research, and she says it takes about 20 years. And, you think about it, a lot of women don't start showing signs of fibromyalgia. Fibromyalgia is something that attacks most women. Same thing with multiple sclerosis. Most people don't start showing signs of that until they are in their mid to late 20s. And then it gets worse in their 30s. And there's very little treatment other than trying to use steroids or other medications that have been developed to try and stop, the autoimmune part of it. But they really don't know what triggers it. But wow, listening to this woman talk, and then of course Dr. Berg's talk on autoimmune, I'm like, wow, this may be the key to keeping, our children or anybody from developing, but also with keto and fasting, getting rid of the symptoms, bringing people back into health, like you and I, Wilma. Did you have any autoimmune issues?
I have thyroid, but I quit taking medicine for it because I wasn't feeling good on it. And they said I had Hashimoto's or something.
Hashimoto's, yes. Mhm.
And they said that's 10 years ago. And I said, okay, what can I do for it? The doctor says, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what they tell everybody. And they'll give you some sort of medication, but they're not guaranteeing it's going to work. And basically, you're told when you get Hashimoto's or thyroid, this will just continue to deteriorate and you'll have to take this medication the rest of your life. And we don't know why it starts and la la la. And yes, with Hashimoto's, then you get heart issues. With Hashimoto's, your heart will be weakened, your heart will enlarge. You will have more and more troubles, and it'll eventually probably kill you if something else doesn't kill you first. So,
That's interesting. The only thing he told me was that my body was attacking my thyroid, and that's all he could tell me.
mhm,
But the medicine didn't make me feel any better, so I just said, well, why spend the money?
yeah, yeah. But so many other people, the doctor told me to take this. I'm going to take it till the day I die because he said, it's an autoimmune disorder. We don't know why it starts and we don't know how to treat it. We'll try this medication or we'll give you prednisone or one other, like with MS, they have a couple of drugs developed for MS. What's that one called? Something with an L. Um, and, they just don't know what to do for it. And so to me, this gives a lot of hope. This video, to me, gives a lot of hope to people with autoimmune disorders. And it's, I, personally, I think it's amazing that, using fasting. And I, I wish he would have talked more about keto. He does talk about it in it, but I wished he would have talked more because I don't know how people not doing keto would go to a 24-hour, eating window because I think I would be too hungry. Um, because it takes a while for me to get the chemistry going right so that I can go 20 hours without eating and not being hungry and craving everything under the roof. But anyway, for me as a healthcare practitioner, I have struggled since doing keto myself because every time I mention keto to people, they say things like, "Oh, you got to buy all these specialty foods and snacks and drinks and everything, and that's just way too expensive and troublesome." And we don't buy the specialty keto foods really. I just choose to eat the foods I can eat, and that's it. Um, and so a lot of people turn off the conversation once you mention keto. So I think of this possibility as presenting this as an autoimmune treatment might interest more people. Scott, you have anything to say?
Yeah, I think it's right. But I have a question though. Do you still want a steak? A more practical question. On a practical level, do you still want a steak?
Sí, querido,
All
arigato.
right.
I forgot to put that in the oven. Anyway, so anything else anybody wants to say this week at all?
Pyramid is an interesting thing because I know growing up, I never remembered hearing about this food pyramid until I was out of high school. And then all of a sudden, this came up, and everybody's going, well, did you know about it? No, it came out after I was out of school.
So I'm sorry, Wilma, I forget. How old are you?
I'm in my mid 60s.
Mid 60s. So you're the same age as me, because I'm 61. So we're about the same age. I remember it being mentioned probably in my later grades, like seventh or eighth grade, but it wasn't really emphasized. but I do remember it around the time I was in college because I took a college nutrition course and they mentioned the pyramid and I'm like, oh, isn't that useful? But it always bothered me that that bottom rung, 11 servings of, breads and noodles and stuff. I'm like, wow, that's a lot, because for me, I would have one serving of rice at a meal, or I'd have one serving of noodles at a meal, or one piece of bread at a meal. Um, or two slices of pizza or something, So that bottom rung always bothered me. So I'd have to look up and find out when the food pyramid got really going. I think it was late 50s, early 60s. So maybe we just missed it, Wilma.
It was in the 80s.
Oh, it didn't start till the 80s?
Yeah.
Really? Huh.
Here comes my husband. He'll tell.
I've looked into this one.
Oh, okay.
In 1978, there was congressional hearings about nutrition, which were
We can hardly hear you, dear.
okay. In 1978,
Mm-hmm.
there was congressional hearings about that with witnesses from Big Pharma and from the processed food companies advising on nutrition. George McGovern was in charge of that committee, and by 1980, they had issued their findings based on, quote, science. So it was just a little over 40 years ago that this started to be pushed. So yeah, I've looked into that one because it's so bogus. I had to read up on it a little.
Well, you want to know what else is bogus? I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Wilma's husband.
Alan.
Alan, you want to know what else is bogus? Is our president was at a conference today on health and nutrition, talking about the food pyramid and the plate that they talk about for diabetics and everything. And I was sitting there watching this drivel, and I'm like, if they want to know about health and nutrition, looking at the food pyramid and the food plate is not the way to do it. And our government is handing out propaganda. And why was the pharmaceutical companies involved with this? Pharmaceutical companies have nothing to do with food, do they?
That they do. That more than you think.
Yeah, but I mean, logically, I would think, why do they do?
You just said logically in the government. So you can't use both those together. Just forget it.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry, Alan.
It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Logically and the government. Yeah, no.
So anyway, I'm going to get back to what I was doing. I just heard you wondering about the dates.
Okay, thanks, Alan. Yeah, but how do you stop the government from putting out this propaganda? I mean,
because they're making money. Each senator and stuff and all the food companies are making the money.
It's just wrong, Wilma. People are dying because they don't know this.
And I've heard like some of the major food people, the executives and stuff, they don't eat the food that they're manufacturing because they know it's not healthy.
That's kind of like Bill Gates and everything. Bill Gates and who's that other guy? Zuckerberg. They don't let their kids have iPhones and iPads and everything because it's bad for their brains to be online and on social media and stuff. So it's okay for us to fry our brains and everything, but not for them, so that they can have lots of money. It's just very sad. I don't work that way. I wish they didn't. Yeah, no, but that video today of Joe Biden and everybody talking about nutrition and health, and I just, it was nauseating watching it, and pat themselves on the back. Oh, how many American lives have been saved by using our food pyramid and our information? I'm like, probably none, is what I was thinking. I certainly wasn't saved. I wasn't helped. And they're like, oh, we've helped children not starve because we told them they have to eat all this bread every day and stuff. It's just, it's sickening. Anyway.
We're sitting beside a person that he's a type 2 diabetic, but he's taking metformin, so he figures he's fine. He's not on insulin. Well, he started out the morning with, let's see, he had a great big peanut butter cookie. The next thing I knew, his wife brought him a great big Cimarron. Then he had the sandwich and chips for lunch, and and an apple. And in the afternoon, he had nuts and something else. And I made the comment to him, you know, if you were pricking your finger, you'd see what that roll did to you. And his response was, I don't want to know. So he'll be on insulin before long.
Why do you think people don't want to know?
Denial. I've got another friend that's diabetic. He's got a CGM. It's constantly buzzing at him because his sugars are rising. And his significant other just can't do anything with him. He's in denial. I have diabetes. There's nothing I can do about it. You go out, he's having pizza, he's having beer, he's having cookies. And you know it's not good for him, but he goes ahead and has it because he can't do anything about it. You know, he's a diabetic. I think that's their attitude. And then another one went through, and she's trying to not get diabetes. She must be on the verge because she's really starting to watch her carbs. And she said, well, you know, so-and-so with this, he's diabetic. He left home this morning doing good, having eggs and bacon. Then they stopped somewhere. He had a burrito, maybe a breakfast burrito, but he had a burrito. Then they went somewhere else that morning, and he had a hot dog. And then at 11:30, he had the big barbecued beef hamburger. That was all before 11:30. And he's wondering why he can't control his diabetes.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I mean, I'd like to go out and eat pizza. About 2 weeks ago, I had a gluten-free, casein-free, you know, dairy-free, soy-free pizza. It's a small pizza. And I ate most of it. I shared some of it, but I ate most of it. And my blood sugar went to 169 within an hour of that. And I mean, it was organic. It was healthy. It didn't have the wheat or the dairy that I shouldn't have. And man, it blew up my blood. Now my blood sugar came down within 2 hours. It was down to 190, not 190, to 90. But still, I didn't like that spike. I mean, it went from 80 to 170 basically, you know, in the space of 30 minutes. And it stayed up there for more than an hour and then came back down to 90 by the end of 2 hours. You know, I didn't like that spike, you know. And it just shows that I can't eat pizza. I can't eat carbs. It wasn't a cauliflower crust. It was something I had left over in the freezer, and I was cleaning out the freezer, and I'm like, oh, look, I have one more pizza from before keto. I'll eat it. Shouldn't be bad. Well, yeah, that didn't turn out though. And it wasn't just the blood sugar. You know, it pushed my blood pressure up too. And, you know, I just have to think that people don't understand how their bodies work. And if they understood more of how their bodies worked, maybe they'd be willing to work more with their bodies. But we are a society that is so interested in, I don't know, the pleasure of food rather than the nutrition of food. Do you understand
Yeah, that's
what I'm
right.
saying?
Yeah. and most societies around the world are that way as well. And you know, we've got a psychological attachment to food. You know, I mean, you know, we all know the term comfort food, and you know, probably all of us, you know, on a cold day, on a cold winter day, you come inside the house and you have a nice hot bowl of soup, and you know, it's a comfort thing. And you know, you have you know, during the holidays, you have a cup of hot chocolate or whatever. And the other thing is, you know, you go out socially. When you go out, you go out and eat. You know, I mean, uh, and and so and you know, people who drink alcohol, it's a social thing a lot of times. You know, you go out and you socialize, and what do you do? What do you do when you socialize? You drink. You know, and so, you know, I don't think we really recognize it, but we need to. The fact that we have a deep psychological attachment to food, you know, and you know, and I had to break my attachment to popcorn. I loved popcorn, especially during the fall. During the fall and winter, you know, I would you know, I'd have the munchies at night after supper, and I'd make some popcorn and eat some popcorn and potato chips as well. And in fact, I'd eat a whole bag of potato chips. What I had to do is I had to keep the potato chips in the kitchen and then put just a few potato chips into a bowl and bring them out to where I was working. And that's the only way I would limit the amount of potato chips I would eat. Otherwise, I'd probably eat almost the whole bag.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that wasn't good because of the salt content. You know, not just carbs, but because of the salt content. You know, I mean, 2 or 3 years ago, I wasn't even thinking of, you know, carbs or keto or anything, but I was just thinking of the salt content of those chips. I really didn't want to take in that much sodium.
yeah. It's hard. I work with families that have children that have ADD, ADHD, and these children struggle every single day. And when I suggest to parents that part of the problem could be what they're eating, the parents nearly keel over, because I happen to suggest that maybe they should change their child's diet. And they're like, oh, you mean like go gluten-free? I'm like, well, no. Probably, boy, why did that happen? Probably go to something more keto. And they're like, oh, children can't be raised without fruit and without ice cream. I mean, you mean I can't let them have all that candy on Halloween? Yeah, it's a social thing, it's a psychological thing, and you know, I understand, because I'm addicted to food. I want sweets right now. I've had a frustrating day, and I would love nothing more than to tuck into a pan of brownies. But luckily, I have no brownies, and there's no place to go get gluten-free brownies, and I'm not going to get brownies because I know what it would do to me. I would be very sick.
The food addiction is a very real thing. There's a person called Joan, Joan, the last name Ifland. She talks about carb addiction and how the tobacco companies started buying up the food companies. And she said that's when they started making our food addictive, where you wanted more. Lay's potato chip was made so you could not eat one, you had to have more. And so this food addiction, they've made the food so your brain craves it.
Mhm.
You may not want it, but your brain will crave it, so you'll eat it.
Mhm. Well, I'm just thankful that we're all, you know, in this together, trying to help each other with these cravings and these crazy these companies that are trying to do us all in. I mean, the pharmaceutical company, the doctors and hospitals, and the food companies, they all seem to be in cahoots, because the more they feed us this food and the more addictive it is, the more work the doctors get and the more money the pharmaceuticals make. It just seems like a vicious circle. And we're on this roller coaster. And it's pretty sad. It's pretty
But for
sad.
years, the doctors don't treat the disease, they just treat the symptoms.
Right. Yeah. They, and they just like, oh, I have no idea. It's kind of like, I don't want to get too much onto COVID, but for me, part of it is like with COVID. It's like, oh, we have this new virus and it's deadly, it's dangerous, et cetera, and we have no treatments. I'm like, well, how about making our immune systems stronger? What about cutting out sugar so it doesn't make all of our white blood cells all sticky and not be able to go where they need to go to fight off the virus and stuff? They just basically said, we have nothing, we don't know anything to do for it. It's crazy. It's just crazy. But thankfully, we have ideas and ways to help our own selves. And if we can talk to other people, like Scott talks to his students, I talk to my clients, Wilma, you talk to the people you meet, about changing the lifestyle and getting off the rat race of, I must eat the brownies, but see the doctor for the medication from the pharmaceuticals, just to keep living. Maybe we can get off the rat race, and maybe we can pull a few people with us, which is what I think we should do. It's getting closer to 8, and I think we should say a word for Dr. Boz and everyone in Florida, because she moved to Tampa, and the Hurricane Ian is hitting right south of Tampa. And I know that she has taken all of her valuables and photos and things like that and put them in various vehicles, and they've moved inland to, I think, an Airbnb where she had her broadcast last night. And we just need to, if you're a praying person, pray for them, and pray for everyone in Florida that, there's not a huge loss of life. There's going to be a large cleanup bill, I'm sure, for Florida, because this is a big one. And
This morning, Michelle Bosworth went on and said that they were fine.
they're fine. Okay. Did it pass
That was
through
on the
last
neurons
night?
this morning.
That was on
But
the
I don't
neurons?
know. Yeah, it was on the neurons this morning. Somebody asked, and she said they're okay. That was this morning. I
Yeah,
don't know if they've moved again.
yeah. Yeah, because I think the storm's going to be further up the coast later tonight. I think it was supposed to hit into Georgia and South Carolina, wasn't it? Yeah, we get big blizzards and everything here. We luckily don't get hurricanes and typhoons, but we do get big blizzards up here. And so anyway, I guess in the next couple of days, we'll see how bad Florida got it and everything. So we're remembering everybody in Florida. And anything else for tonight?
Not at all.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'll say goodnight and sign out and stop our recording. And thank you so much for coming, and see you next week.
Drive safely.
The videos.
Pardon?
I look forward to seeing those links to the videos
Yes.
that you talked about.
Yeah, as soon as this finishes downloading and then I post it, I'll put those in.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thanks, Wilma. Bye-bye.
Good evening.